How are you? Today is Thursday, November 28th, 2024. This video, a recap of Jesse Burkett. Have you heard of him? He's in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He played from 1890 through 1905. 16 years. Why am I covering him? He played 2,067 games. That's a good measure. 2,000 games. He accumulated 2,850 hits. And he has a lifetime batting average of .338. That is significant. So this video will be a recap of Jesse Burkett. He had 11 seasons batting over 300 out of 16. That is significant. What is most impressive, he is one out of 5 players in baseball history to have multiple 400 batting seasons. Did you know that? Only 5 have done it. Batted over 400 2 or more times. First to do it, Ed Delante, 3 400 batting seasons. Then Jesse Burkett, 2 400 batting seasons. And he could have had a third because in 1899, he batted .396, 4 points shy of 400. Did you know that Ed Delante, he could have had 4 400 batting seasons? 1 year, let's see. Let me get Ed Delante's stats up here. I want to be accurate. Let's see. I didn't know this about Delante. This guy, strange character in baseball history. Yeah, I was right. 1896, he batted .397, 3 points shy. He could have had 4 400 batting seasons. Okay, the next guy to do it was Ty Cobb. He had 3 400 batting seasons. He didn't come close to the 4th. He had a couple of 380s. In fact, let me put him in here just to be accurate. Ty Cobb. Did he come close to a 4th? He had a 389, so 11 points shy of 400. He could have had a 4th, too. The next guy to do it, George Sisler. He had 2 400 batting seasons, and he had a 380-something also, so he didn't come close to his third. But then Rogers Hornsby was the 5th guy. He's the 3rd guy to have 3 400 batting seasons. Did you know that Rogers Hornsby came so close to having his 4th 400 batting season? What I did was I looked at every box score that he ever played. I did a series of videos on him. Did you know that in the year 1921, he was batting .400 on the last day of the season? And he went 0 for 4. And his average dropped to .397. If he hadn't have played that game, he would have had his 4th 400 batting season. One of the greatest hitters of all time, Rogers Hornsby. So back to Jesse Burkett. 11 seasons over 300 and 2 over 400. And he could have had a third. He batted .396, 1899. What's also significant about Jesse Burkett, as we're doing a recap of him, did you know that he had 9 seasons out of 16 over 100 runs scored? His high was 160 runs scored, and he had 153 another season, and he had 145 another, And he had 142 another. This guy got on base and scored runs. 1,720 runs scored in 2,067 games. Very close to almost a run scored per game played. He also had 6 200 batting seasons and could have had a 7th, because the 7th season was 198 hits. Now he had 240, 225 one year, 226, 221, 213, 203. 6 200 batting seasons, or 200 hit seasons. 320 career doubles. Didn't reach the 500 like some of the other guys did. Ed Delonte had 500 doubles. 182 triples. 75 home runs. Not a home run guy. 16 years, only 75 homers. 952 RBIs. 16 years. Should have had more RBIs. He had 389 stolen bases. 1,029 walks. 613 strikeouts. His ratio, pretty good there. He had 8,426 at bats and struck out 613 times. All right, he had a 338 career batting average, 415 on base. That's good, over 400. I like that. 446 slugging. The big sluggers are usually in the 600s, 700s, 800s. 600 and 700, and some of those sluggers had an 800 slugging season. Babe Ruth's lifetime slugging average, 690. Number one. And then he had 3,759 total bases. Here's a question I want to ask. Where does Jesse Burkett rank among the greatest hitters of all time? Not the greatest player of all time. He could put him somewhere in the top 100, but as far as hitting, where does he rank? Obviously, you need to put Ty Cobb number 1 because of his 366 lifetime batting average, 4,189 hits. He's number 1 greatest hitter of all time. He's not the greatest player of all time. Babe Ruth is the greatest player of all time because of the all-around accomplishments, especially the home runs. See, Cobb only just over 100 homers, so you can't put him as the greatest player, but you can put Ty Cobb number 1 greatest hitter of all time. He had a ratio of 1.38 hits per game played, and he had over 11,000 at-bats. See, it's not just 5,000 at-bats, and then he had a 366 career batting average. 11,000 at-bats and maintained 366. In fact, I wrote a book on Ty Cobb. I followed his batting average through his 24-year career. I went down every single game that he played. Started off 240. Then he got up to 300. And then through the years, kept increasing the average, got to 325, 400. Every single box score, you look at his game and the stat and then the average. I did that for his 3,000 games. I went every single game where his batting average stood at each game played. Started off at 240, right around there. Got to 300, 320, then got up to 350. And then around his 10th or 11th year, he's batting 370 career. And then around the 13th, 14th year, his highest career batting average at that point, after about 14 years, was 372. And he maintained that for a couple years, 371, 372, never got higher than 372. Then as he got closer to retiring in his 20th year, 21 years, went down to 370, from 372 to 370. Then it got 369, 368. And then his last year When he finished his career, it ended up 366 career batting average. I did that all 3,000 games. Crazy me, right? So he's legitimately number one, the greatest hitter of all time. Who would you rank number two? You got to look at Rogers Hornsby's 358 career batting average. He's right up there. Hornsby had a ratio of 1.29 hits per game. He had 2,930 hits in about 2,200 games. Very good ratio. You know, he retired 70 hits shy of 3,000. I don't get that for Roger Hornsby. Anyways, who would you put number three greatest hitter? You got to look at two guys, and they could be interchangeable. Tris Speaker has a 345 career batting average, but his ratio is about 1.26 hits per game, 3,500 career hits in 2,700 games. But you also got to look at George Sisler's ratio. He was better than Tris Speaker's ratio. He had a 1.36 hits per game. Speaker is 1.26. So Sisler is 10 points higher than Speaker. Speaker has more career hits because Sisler ended up with 2,812 hits in 2,000 games. But you got to look at Jesse Burkett's ratio of hits per game, 1.37, which beats Sisler. Burkett played 2,067 games and had 2,850 hits. Sisler, 2,055 games, which is a difference of about 12 games. He had less hits than Burkett. Sisler ended up with 2,812, which is about 38 hits shy of Burkett. Can you put Burkett number three greatest hitter of all time? That's debatable. He's got the 338. Now, there are guys higher than that, right? Career batting average. Let me go to that area right here. Career batting average leaders. Go to Baseball Reference, go on career. So you've got Cobb one. I'm going to put Cobb greatest hitter of all time. Number two, I'm going to put Roger Hornsby. Number three is debatable. Is it Speaker, Sisler, or Burkett? Speaker had the 3,500 hits, but it took him 2,700 games. Sisler had the 2,800 hits, better ratio of hits per game than Speaker, but he only played the 2,000 games. And then Burkett had a better ratio of hits over Sisler and Speaker. Burkett just had the 2,000 games. But you got to look at, if you want to go at number three, I'm going to go with Ed Delante. Have you heard of him? Why? Well, his career batting average was 346, which is better than Burkett, Speaker, and Sisler. The only note that you should have on Delante is he played 1,837 games, which is less than Burkett, Sisler, and Speaker. But Delante had career hits 2,597, which gives him the number one ranking of hits per game played. Did you know that? I could not find anyone else who had a better ratio of hits per game played. If you look at the games played and how many hits they accumulated, you can get the ratio. Delante had 1.41 hits per game played in his career. In 1,837 games, 2,597 hits gives you 1.41. That is better than Cobb, Burkett, Sisler, and Speaker. So you got to put Delante, as far as greatest hitters of all time, number three. Now, number 4, 5, and 6, you can interchange between Speaker, Sisler, and Burkett. But there's another guy you got to look at. Tony Gwynn. 338 career batting average. but his ratio is 1.28 hits per game. He played 2,440 games and had 3,141 hits. So his ratio is better than Speaker, but not as good as Sisler and Burkett and Delonte. So I'm going to put Gwynn in that mixture of Burkett, Speaker, Sisler, and Gwynn. Those four guys. Maybe you can interchange and see who would you put number 4. You got to have Cobb 1. Cobb's ratio is 1.38 hits per game. So he's number 3 all time. You know who's number 2? Sam Thompson. He had a 1.41 hits per game played, but the flaw on him was only 1,400 games. He had 1,988 hits in 1,400 games, and he had played more games, like up to 2,000 games. He would have been over 3,000 hits, Sam Thompson. But you can't put him in there because not enough games played, 1,400. Another guy who had a good ratio of hits per game was Willie Keeler. 2,100 games, 2,900 hits, 68 hits shy of 3,000. He had a 1.38 hits per game played. He is number 4 all time as far as ratio. But his career batting average, what was Willie Keeler's career batting average? He was at 341. So, as far as number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, you got to throw Willie Keeler in there among the greatest hitters of all time. 341, which beats Sisler, Burkett, Speaker, and Gwynn. Can you put Willie Keeler? When did he play? He played from 1892 to 1910. That's a factor. I don't know where to put Willie Keeler. Is he number 4 greatest hitter of all time? 341. Now, there's some guys who have better batting averages. Joe Jackson has a 356 career. With Joe Jackson, not enough games played. Played 1,300 games, see? So him and Thompson, you can't put him up there. Not enough games played. Even though he has a 356 career. Ted Williams is 344 career, right? Now, he has the criteria met of games played. He is 2,292 games, see, and he had 2,654 hits. But his ratio of hits per game played is ranked. Where is Ted Williams? I did a ratio. I did a countdown of the ranking of hits per game played. He's ranked number 66. He was 1.16 hits per game played. But he's got the 344 career batting average, over 2,200 games, and over 2,600 hits. Can you put Ted Williams, number 4, greatest hitter of all time? He's got the homers, the power, and the RBIs, and the walks. I'm kind of leaning toward putting Ted Williams, number 4, greatest hitter of all time. Because of the power and the RBIs, even though the ratio of hits per game played is not, he's ranked number 66. See, Keeler, Burkett, Sisler, Gwynn, and Speaker all beat him as far as ratio of hits per game played. If you can put Williams in the greatest player category, he's ranked in the top 5. You've got to put him there. As far as greatest hitter, you got to consider Ted Williams. Another guy who had a better batting average than Burkett, Sisler, Speaker, and Gwynn was a guy named Dan Brothers, but he only played 1,600 games, so he had 2,300 hits, 1.37 hits per game played. That's number 6 all time, Dan Brothers. I don't know about him. It's not enough games for him. Cap Hansen, he's another guy He has a very good ratio of hits per game played, 1.36, which is ranked number 8. He had 2,500 games and had 3,400 hits, 900 more hits than games played. Do you put Camp Canson among the greatest hitters of all time? He's in the 1870s and 80s and 90s, so got to consider that factor. Al Simmons had a good ratio. He's number 10 all time. 2,200 games, 2,900 hits, 1.32 hits per game played. Billy Hamilton, not enough games, 1,594, but he has a good ratio. 1.35 hits per game played. He had 1,600 games roughly, 2,100 hits. Hugh Duffy, 1,700 games, 2,200 hits, 1.32. Nap Lajoie is another guy, 2,400 games, 3,200 hits, 1.30. Kirby Puckett's in there. Joe DiMaggio had a good ratio. Derek Jeter. If you want to ask me the question, among who are the greatest hitters of all time, ranked, I'll go with Cobb 1, Hornsby 2, and Delonte 3. And I just proved it with the stats. Number 4, I'm going to go with Ted Williams. Yeah, good ratio. Even though his ratio of hits per game is not as good as the other guys, this 344 is to be reckoned with. His batting average of 344. You got to look at that. Number 5, I'm debating Speaker, Sisler, Burkett, Gwynn. You got Hamilton, Hansen, and Keeler, and Lajoie, and Duffy. If I was to pick someone there, I got to go with Tris Speaker's 345 career batting average, number 5. And then I'm going to go with George Sisler at number 6. He's got the 340 career batting average. And then I'll go with Jesse Burkett around number 7. You got to look at Lou Gehrig. Yeah, he was pretty good. 2,100 games, 2,700 hits, 1.25 hits per game played, and he was an RBI machine. So you got to look at him. I'll give you my top 10 right now, okay? Cobb, 1. Hornsby, 2. Delonte, 3. Williams, 4. Speaker, 5. Number 6, George Sisler. 7, Jesse Burkett. 8, I don't know. Maybe I need to put Tony Gwynn number 7 and Jesse Burkett number 8 because Gwynn got over the 3,000 hits, even though Burkett has a better ratio of hits per game played. I'll put Gwynn 7, Burkett 8. And you got Wheeler, Keeler, and Billy Hamilton. So they can either be 9 or 10, okay? Is that fair? What do you think? Greatest hitters of all time. That's why I covered Jesse Burkett in this series of videos. And I'm done with him. This was a recap video on Jesse Burkett. Now, as far as my YouTube channel, I've covered now. Babe Ruth was number 1. I did all his box scores. Then I did Ty Cobb, Lou Gehrig, 3. Then I looked at Tris Speaker. I looked at George Sisler. I looked at Ted Williams. I looked at Rogers Hornsby. And I looked at Tony Gwynn. And now I just finished Jesse Burkett. Who's next? Let's see. Let's go back. Okay, I've done Cobb, Hornsby, Speaker, Williams, Ruth, Gehrig, Sisler, Burkett, and Gwynn. Who should I cover next? Well, you got to look at guys who have high career batting averages. I'm not doing Henry Aaron and Willie Mays yet. Why? Aaron 305 career batting average, even though he has the homers and the RBIs. And Willie Mays 302 batting average. He has the homers and the RBIs. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the hitting part. I'm focusing on hitting. Who should I do next? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do Joe Jackson. Shoeless Joe Jackson. Why? He has a 356 career batting average, only in 13 years. But that is significant. Don't you agree? And if he hadn't got kicked out of baseball, could he have maintained 356 for the rest of his career? Well, what I'm going to do, I'm going to look at all his seasons, and I'm going to analyze him next in a series of videos, okay? But here's one other note, too. I just got back from Europe, 2 weeks in Europe. Went to France, Italy, and Spain. So I'm going to take a break between Joe Jackson and Jesse Burkett. And in the middle there, I'm going to post some videos of my trip to Europe. They're 2-minute videos, 1-minute videos, 2-minute videos. France, Spain, and Italy. When I'm done with posting all those videos, there may be 10, 15, or 20, or 25. I don't know how many there are. When I'm done with that, then I'll get into Joe Jackson's career, okay? Thanks for watching this video, 25 minutes. Talk to you later. I'm out.